And so the bottom of my whole life just was gone. Everything was gone. And I was literally couch surfing, staying at people's houses. It was just the worst time. And he just came running towards me. I'm not going to say what he said because it was so freaking vulgar, but I just stood there and I was like, oh my God, I freaking love this dude. Who is he? He's disgusting. And I was like, answer a phone. Do you know who I am? Yeah. So life, of course, life in general is an adjustment no matter what, right? You've got to, not again, you know, and I always feel like that. Again, like really? But then I turn around and something amazing happens. It's the weirdest. I just had a phone call earlier this morning. I was talking about Jackie Callan, and I really give her all the props in the world because she started everything for everyone, right? All the women. So like, is this really my life? Like, are we really doing this? I knew there was something bigger out there for me. It took me a minute to get there, obviously, but I knew there was something bigger. And I would always say, like, you know, this the bus doesn't have to, you don't have to get up at the last stop, you know, like keep going. I said, like, in jest, like, oh, it's a good job I didn't have a date on Friday night. And he said, you know, he goes, if you want to be successful, you've got to marry this self. And I think that I would have probably just said, like, fuck it then, let's go do it.
Well, you was just talking about the work in the advertising agency and how you're now starting to network and meet people. Talk to me more about your networking and how you're maneuvering now in America. A girl from Chelmsley Wood, how you're networking in Hollywood.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing about Hollywood. Everything is a handshake and everyone, oh, let's do lunch and let's do this, let's do that. So it was, you know, most of it's BS, but it is that is the machine that moves Hollywood, right? Everyone's constantly networking. And I think just for me, it's always been an easy thing. I've never had to really work hard at it. You know, I think my accent and things like that were very much things that people liked about me. You know, if you look at me, you wouldn't be thinking that I was English. You only know that because when I'm speaking, right, British when I'm speaking. But you know, so when people would hear my accent, it was like, oh, where are you from, and what's this, and then one thing would lead to another, and I'd tell them my story. So that's kind of how I've always kind of moved around. And I just like people. I really do. I enjoy meeting new people and making new friends and things like that. And I rarely forget a person, and I always follow up and all of that kind of stuff. I knew that was important because I knew that that's all that I had. That's just what was going to get me into the doors. I didn't really have like a list of doors that I wanted to get into necessarily, but it absolutely, my personality is what got me where I am. Yeah. There's no question about it.
And did you, while you're now in America, did you build a relationship with your biological father?
You know, I tried. I really tried. He's a hard man. He's a very difficult man. He's a very cantankerous old sod. Because, you know, he wanted to be my, like a dad, you know, and I was like, well, you can't be. Like, I'm a grown woman. I've got my own kid. I've got a husband. You know, you weren't there when I was growing up. I only met him twice as a kid myself. So no, we didn't really have a father-daughter relationship. It was more of a, if I was giving, then, you know, he'd be around. So I didn't really, but I do think that I get a lot of my personality from him because he's a musician also. And well, I'm not a musician, but he was a musician as the same as Vince, but he would have to use his, you know, his innate skills to get to where he was going. So I think I get a lot of it from him. But we did not have a relationship. No. Not really. No.
And before you met the legendary James Toney, did you know anything about boxing before you even met him?
No. Frank Bruno, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, probably. No, yeah. I knew nothing about boxing. And, you know, it's incredible because, and not many people even know this, but when my friend was hanging out with him, but at that time I was actually homeless. I
Oh, okay.
like, yeah, years before that, I'd lost my job. I lost my job at the ad agency. And so the bottom of my whole life just was gone. Everything was gone. And I was literally couch surfing, staying at people's houses. It was just the worst time. And then Vince died. So so that was 2001. So that was a really rough year. But then my friend was saying, like, oh, I've got this friend, he's this boxer, and you got to come and meet him. And I was like, okay, I'll go, maybe he's got a friend I can meet or whatever, I knew nothing. We would watch the fights, of course. Everyone watched Mike Tyson and all that, right? But I didn't know anything about boxing. I did not know who James was at all. And I met him, and once again, in an instant, my life was changed considerably. So yeah, it was wild. I met him, and he just came running towards me. I'm not going to say what he said because it was so freaking vulgar, but I just stood there and I was like, oh my God, I freaking love this dude. Who is he? He's disgusting. Like, it's so freaking gross. It's something so gross, but then you automatically are fond of them. I'm like, that's weird. Like, I really like him, but it's disgusting. But anyway, he was like, oh, and he's in my face. And I didn't blink. And he was like, oh, okay, this is a different kind of girl. And then I spoke. He was like, oh, where are you from? And that was it. He goes, come and meet my promoter. I want to work with you. I want to do something. And honestly, I had nothing. The shoes that I had on my feet, the clothes that I had on my back, I had no money, no. And I really mean, I had nothing. I wasn't living on the sidewalk, thank God, but I was real close to living on the sidewalk. But he took me to his promoter, and who was Dan Goossen. And everyone in boxing would know that the late Dan Goossen. And I was hired on the spot to answer the phone. And I'm so bougie, right? And I was like, answer a phone? Do you know who I am? Like, I'm Rachel Charles. Like, what the frick? And my other voice is like, you better freaking get your ass in here. You need a job, right? Get an answer that phone. And I really didn't understand what I was getting into, but I just knew I needed a job. I was offered a job, so I'm going to go do this job. And I didn't know how I was going to get there because I didn't have a car. And my friend let me use his car. And then a very, 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 very well-known person, an icon, helped me buy some clothes. And that would be Stevie Wonder, who's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And he sent me to the mall and helped me buy some clothes so that I would have some clothes to go to my new job. And I started at Goossen, and I was there for, I don't think I even got my first paycheck, and they were looking for a publicist. And I was like, I can do that job. I know I can. I don't know what it is, but I know I can do it, because I used to always talk to the press people when I was on the road with Vince. And I would see the publicist for Neil Diamond doing what she was doing. So I kind of knew, but I certainly didn't know what it meant to be a publicist in boxing. But I just knew I could do it. And I asked Dan for the opportunity. I said, can I try it? And he was like, all right, let's see if you'll last. And I did. I made it. I lasted.
You know what's interesting to me, right? Just listening to your journey, right, is hindsight. Because everything that you're speaking about and talking, because you mentioned earlier on that, things happen that's really good, but then there's always trauma or tragedy, right, that comes next. But that's literally the building blocks to where, like, how you're managing yourself in an arena now, right? And at the time, we never know these situations that we go through. Although they're traumatic and they're bad, we never know that that's a setup to what's coming in the future, because you're going to need all those skills to manage now.
Yeah. It's like a boxer getting in the ring, and you've got your game plan, and your coach sends you out there, you've got your little Vaseline on and all your little shit, and go out there, go get him, Tiger. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, this is not what I saw on the tape of my opponent. You've got to adjust. So life, of course, life in general is an adjustment no matter what, right? You've got to do every throughout the, even just the day, let alone your life, but just the day, you've got to adjust to circumstances. And for me, you know, I always say, like, everything that was so bad and horrible and dark and lonely and awful absolutely happened to me. And then everything that was freaking amazing also happened to me. You know what I mean? And I think that I think that now that I'm getting older and I do look back and it's like, okay, well, this person, I don't think they could have handled it, you know, or this person might not have made it through. And I made it through, you know, I mean, you know, there's certainly, I'm not without my war wounds, you know, for sure. But yeah, I definitely made it through. And I definitely believe that, you know, people are tapped for greatness, right? And I just feel like, you know, even like going as far back as from when I was conceived, my parents had a black American dad and a white mother, like in the 60s, that was a one night stand. So that right there is like, okay, the odds are stacked against this kid even freaking getting out of the maternity ward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So all of that and all of those things that, you know, that little black kid growing up on Chelmsley Wood with the frizzy hair and the freaking ashy kneecaps is now, you know, I've still got ashy kneecaps, but, you know, but now, like, you can see, like, all the things that I went through have absolutely got me to where I am now. So when shite does go bad and I'm like, oh shit, what am I going? Oh, not again, you know. And I always feel like that again, like, really? But then I turn around and something amazing happens. It's the weirdest thing. Crazy.
It's a different level of being grounded as well. As you've
Yeah.
mentioned, you know, Chelmsley Wood, you know, right at the bottom, council estate, right up to traveling the world, touring, but yet you get the phone call to say, well, your job is answering phones. Some people would say, well, as you mentioned, do you know who I am? And walk
Right.
away. But you know,
Yeah.
you know, and it takes a different kind of person to say, do you know what? Irrespective of the situation, because some people are stubborn. So even if they've got no money in their pocket, they will be stubborn and not do it.
Yeah.
It takes a different type of person to say, let me just step back and let's see what this adventure is going to take me on.
That's exactly it. And James had his manager was a guy named Mr. Arthur, John Arthur. James used to call him Pops because he was very much a father figure to James, but I would always address him as Mr. Arthur. He sadly passed away a year ago, just over a year ago. And he would say to me, Rachel, just trust me, because I'd be like, oh, I can't do this, you know, this is the pressure of this job was a lot, right? And I was like, I can't do it, oh my god, I don't think I like it, you know, whatever. And he'd be like, trust me, this is where you need to be, I promise you, trust me. And I just trusted him and stuck it out, and it worked, you know what I mean? And I made it work. I had to, at some point, you've got to step back and go, okay, you might not like this, but you got to walk through it, you know? So just you can't, if you walk around it, you're going the long way. You walk through it, you're going to catch fire. So what do you want to do? You know, you got to make that adjustment. And I was like, fuck it, I'm going for it. Let's just do it. And I did it. And that was it. And then I was like, I woke up one day and I'm like, I love it. I'm in love with my job. I'm in love with my career. I like it. And I was just answering the phone, you know, and it was just really cool because so many people were calling in, and then they'd be like, hold on, I think I've got the wrong number. And they'd hang up and call back. And I'm like, no, you called the right place. And then it was like, well, who are you? And what's this and what's that? And then I started going out on the road with the fighters and to all the fights and things like that. And again, just work in the room. Everybody wanted to meet me, and, you know, after speaking to me on the phone, you know, and then I wanted to meet like the reporters, not really the boxers, because that's kind of groupy and creepy, but because I was already going to be in the room with them, right? But I wanted to meet the reporters and the promoters and all these people. So I'd be in there just working the room. I'd pick it off like a freaking chicken, you know, like I'd be in there just, you know, having a good laugh with all the guys and all the writers, and they helped me a lot because I didn't know, you know, what punch that was. And you'd hear Jim Lampley saying something and Roy Jones saying something, and I'm like, what are they, what is that, what's it? And I remember one time Wayne McCulloch, right, he fought Oscar Larios, and he lost, right? That they stopped the fight, so it, you know, it's like by way of TKO. And I was like, what's a TKO? And the guy was like, oh, well, it's like, you know, like a standing knockout or some shit like that. And I was like, he didn't get knocked out. He didn't get knocked out. The fight got stopped. And it's a technical knockout, you know. I was like, the fight got stopped. He didn't get knocked out. And I was all in my feelings because I was like, I'm thinking a knockout is flat out on the floor, right? Not, you know, when they shut it down. So, and then, but all the guys were like, no, Rachel, this is what it is. And then they would show me, you know, like teach me all the verbiage of boxing and all that. And as I just moved through and started working, you know, very closely with Dan and Don King and all the people that would come into our world by way of all these fights that we were putting together with all these fighters, Andre Ward, Paul Williams, all those guys. I got to meet, you know, the people that you know, that I would see on TV. Don King, Bob Arum, you know, all those guys, and you're in the room with them, you're standing next to them, you're like, holy shit, this is pretty cool. So, and again, I'm like, I'm just a girl from Chelsea Wood, like, what am I doing? But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's been really great, and I love it. You know, I love boxing. I mean, I'm coming to the end of it now, I'm pretty sure of that, but I do love it, and I do think that growing up on Chelmsley Wood and then living over here with nothing, you know, having it all, losing it all, and having to rebuild it all in boxing, that you know, now I'm in the world of boxing, has really been the best thing that could have happened for sure. Yeah.
The boxing industry is really a male dominated kind of like industry. Well, you've mentioned some big names that you've been around. When you first got into boxing, what was it like gaining that respect and being able to maneuver in a male dominated world? Because from my recollection, and probably for everybody's, when you look at boxing, you see like ring girls and you know, and that's kind of like your view of it. It's changed now massively, right? But at the time when you're getting into boxing, how are you managing yourself through around such big personalities?
You know what? And I'm not even gonna lie. I just didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't. It's like you walk in a room with famous people. You know they're famous because you know them because they're famous. So I would just walk in the room. I'm there to do my job, right? And I think that there weren't that many women. And I just had a phone call earlier this morning. I was talking about Jackie Callan, and I really give her all the props in the world because she started everything for everyone, right? All the women. But yeah, but some of the men were kind of grumpy and kind of, you know, like rough around the edges and whatnot. And there is a lot of that. But I just stood my ground. I'm like, I don't care. I'm here to represent my fighter. So I don't give a shit what you think of me as being a female. I'm just here to do my job, you know? And I think, again, once I was just myself, they were like, oh, it's Rachel. It's just Rachel, you know, like I wasn't there going, oh, Mr. King, can I have your autograph? Or, oh, you know, I want to do this and do that and get with this fighter. And, you know, I was there to do a job. And I worked for a guy that would accept nothing less. So I didn't even have like the room for failure because I was working for a guy that did not believe in failure. So and I also was more than aware, like, you know, the men only like you if you're in your knickers and your bra with a ring card in your hand, right? I'm like, well, I can't help you with that, you know, so I'm just going to come and do my job. And over the years, like these guys, they just, you know, I mean, they all try it. They all try you, you know, or they'll send like some unsuspecting newbie, go over there and say something to Rachel. And if they bark at me, I bark right back. You talk to me a certain way, I'm going to talk to you the same way. And I realized that very early on, you know, you don't have to just tiptoe around like, oh, I'm a woman and they're not going to, it's like, start that. You don't like me. You go get a new job. I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. Like, and that's really what I did. And honestly, it's the craziest. People used to laugh all the time. They'd be like, go say this to Rachel. And they'd come back like, oh, you assholes, why did you do that? You know, so, and I've had people that have tested me for sure. You know, they've definitely tested me, but I always tell them, I'm from the wood. You have no idea where I'm from. You know, and they're looking at me like, okay, well, no, we don't know where you're from, but you know, the way you're describing it, you know, they're not making that connection because I've changed so much over the years, right? But I would always say, I'm from Chelmsley Wood, man. I used to run up and down the bull ring with the Zulus and running around this place, that. I've been through so much shit before I even met you guys. You have no idea who you're messing with. And after a while, they just left me alone. They're like, she's freaking crazy, you know? So they would just leave me alone. And now I'm respected, and, you know, all of that. And I can call and they will answer and all that kind of stuff. And I'm, you know, so that's important. But I think just being myself and just kind of, you know, going back to all the things that I grew up going through, you got to start, when people think that they're better than you, and then you start to look at your own life and you're like, hold on a minute. When I was 10, this happened. When I was 16, this happened. When I was 5, this happened. Are you shitting me, right? Like, what you're bringing to me, this drama or whatever it is, that's nothing. Like, nothing. That's easy shit, man. I could do this all day long, you know? So you got to put a disclaimer on here, because I've got a dirty mouth once I start going, and this is bad, man. I'm so sorry.
You know what? It's upfront and it's raw, and these are what these discussions are. But do you ever pinch yourself, Rachel, when you think about where you are and where you've come from? Do you ever sit down and pinch yourself to see, is this real?
Yeah, I do. And you know what? It's interesting, because I feel like, you know, I've got like imposter syndrome. I think any minute now someone's going to go, you know, who let you in? Get out, you know, and I'm always checking my credential to make sure I'm in the right place, you know, like, is this really my life? Like, are we really doing this? And I definitely have those moments of stepping outside of myself and just going like, come on, like, knock it off, you know. This is not. And I'm like, holy shit, this really is what I'm doing. And, or this really is the life that I have now. This is all that shit happened. This is what's happening now. It's all true. I lived it. I'm here to tell it, you know. You know, I definitely pinch myself. I think I was just recently in London for Joshua Franklin at the O2. And I hadn't been home. I don't really come home often, but I'm going to come over and I'm going to come see you guys. But I don't come home often. And so I was there, and there was a kid. I was talking to John Pegg. I'm sure everyone knows John Pegg at home. He's a great guy, a fellow Brummy. He's got like Shaq and Pitters and all those guys in his gym. Yeah. So really good pal of mine. But I was sitting there and we were talking, and then these guys were like, oh, where are you from? And I was like, oh, and I'm thinking, oh shit, because my accent's changed. So I'm thinking, well, where do I say that I'm from? Like, I'm like, well, I'm from here, but I live in LA. And then they were like, oh, because you sound very American. I'm like, yeah, but I'm from Chelmsley Wood. And then this kid goes, oh, you're from the Endz. Oh, that's, oh my God. So really, people can really live like outside of the Endz. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, you know. And I actually was like, oh shit, I guess we can, you know, we can survive, you know, and it's proven.
This is why I really wanted to have this discussion, because when I used to work in Chelmsley Wood, some of the individuals I used to work with, they couldn't see a life outside of Chelmsley Wood. They wouldn't. There would be times where we'd be doing things as part of the employment and trying to take people out of Chelmsley Wood to do, you know, go ice skating or something. I remember one time we went a minibus, and 2 of them got off the minibus. We were only going to the city centre, but they got off the minibus. And when you said that you was from, you know, the area, I thought, you know what, it's important that we do this discussion, because sometimes people don't see a world outside of their own surrounding. They don't see it at all. And you are, you know, living testament to say you can do whatever you want in life, anything you want in life, with hard work and determination, you can do it.
100%. I mean, and you know, I always knew, I knew that I wouldn't, and like my final days would not be in Chelmsley. I knew there was something bigger out there for me. It took me a minute to get there, obviously, but I knew there was something bigger. And I would always say, like, you know, there's the bus doesn't have to, you don't have to get off at the last stop, you know, like, keep going, you got to keep going. And you know, I mean, there's a few people that live in LA. That there's one guy I went to high school with, And I think I told you the other day, my next door neighbor is Dwayne, you know, so there's like this. And then my other homeboy is Dell from Five Stars. That's my mate, my really good friend. I mean, I sound like I'm bragging, but this is like legit the truth. These are like my mates, right? Yeah. But I went to school with a guy that lives in Santa Monica. He came, we went to Smith's Wood. That was my high school, Smith's Wood Camp. And he lived a couple of streets down from me. And he's over here building houses, doing this thing, living, doing fantastic. And we're both from Charnsley, you know, and then there's Dwayne next door that's doing what he's doing over here. So it can happen. It doesn't happen for everyone. And if you and it's not easy, right? I mean, and that's why only a few do survive. Because when I got here, there was a lot of Americans and Brits, and a lot of them went back home because they couldn't survive. You know, so when I was faced with the same, like, I think after a period of time, you do crash and burn. If you're not on top of what you're doing over here, you will crash and burn. And America is not the place that you want to be when that happens. Because the help, you know, like there's no help here. It's just very strange. But it's a strange culture. But you know, if you can get through that, then you can make it. If you get through that rough, like it's like almost a 5 to 7 year kind of rocky period. If you can get through it, then you're good to go. After that, you just sailing.
Yeah. And the other chapter in your life now, because you are the first female to look after a Saudi Arabia boxer. I mean, you've got that boxer, Zizo, and if people don't know who he is, do your Googles. I would say people do your Googles, but he was on the undercard for the 2022 Anthony Joshua versus Usyk fight, and plus many more fights. But what I want to ask you is, given that, you know, in terms of the equality with women in Saudi Arabia, it's not always been, you know, equal. Moving a long way away from that now, and it's getting better. But what is it like now, you being the first female to look after a Saudi boxer, and what is the significance of that?
You know, it's really interesting because I'd met Zizzo over here at the gym. I was down the street with Buddy McGirt because Buddy trains him, and I'd met him, and I thought, this kid's really special. I didn't know he was from Saudi, you know, because he lives in Egypt with his mom and his dad's over in Saudi and the whole bit. So he kind of skips across. But I just knew that he was special, and I was like, okay, this kid's pretty cool. You know, I want to hang around him. And then as I got to know him more and more, then I was like, oh shit, you know, because we were going to turn pro here in LA. So I was like, okay, I'll turn in pro and we'll be fine. You know, we'll just, you know, we'll start this journey. It's going to be great. Didn't really think too much about it at that point. And then that all fell through, and he gets the call from Skill Challenge, his promoter, to go and fight in Jeddah on the Joshua Usyk 2. And I'm like, holy shiznits, we're going to Jeddah. Like, oh my God. And I'm not even a religious person, but I just love that like, I like Islam. I like that you know, I'm very interested in it, but I'm not really kind of in it. But I realized that Jeddah was like, it's so historical, like, and holy, and oh my, I was like freaking out. I'm like, oh wow, you know, this is a big deal. And we get there, and then I really realized we've done something here, and I've done something here, you know. It's I mean, for me, it's like a lot of pride. It's fantastic, right? It's not going to pay the rent. I can't walk into the grocery store and be like, did you know I was the first person, you know, can I get free groceries? But yeah, as far as like for other women to go over there and do some great things, the doors are definitely opening up. It's lovely that I was the first one. I'm very proud of that. It's fantastic. You know, I mean, it kind of came with a bit of a ripple, and then kind of, you know, the fight was over. We move on, we're like a circus. We go to the next event, you know. But it will always be me, right? It's always going to be me and Zizzo, because Zizzo was the first Saudi-born fighter to be signed to a promotional contract. So he made history, and I made history, and Ramallah Ali made history all on the same night because she was the first female to ever fight in Saudi.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's great. I think it's is my name going to be etched on some kind of a wall over there? No, but you can't take it away from me. I've done it, and it's great. And Saudi is they're really on a mission right now, and they have like a 2030 vision. So by the time we get to 2030, the country should pretty much be wide open. The opportunities that are coming up for women are fantastic. I've been twice. The first time I went, I was with a bunch of people. Second time I went, I traveled on my own. And I'm like, okay, 1 minute I'm going to freaking Tijuana, Mexico on my own, like one of the roughest places on earth. And now I'm headed all the way to the Middle East on my own as a woman. But I'm like, okay, well, if I can make it in TJ, I can make it in Saudi. Yeah. And the people are fantastic, really, really good people. Everyone at Skill Challenge is really, really good. And it's been great. And I just encourage other women to go. There is actually a lady over there, and she's doing really big things with the sports ministry. And she's worked very, very hard. And I think I see her stepping into the light now, and really being a key character over there as far as boxing, because she's worked so diligently with the amateur program. She's helped build it up and all of that. She's a fantastic lady. So I think that others will follow, and it'll be great. I think it'll be really good. You just got to make sure that you go in there, you do your business, and then you don't do any extras. You don't need to. Just go and be proper and conduct yourself, and you'll be fine. It's a beautiful place to go. The food is great, the people are great, but I've never been anywhere and met a stranger, so it's a different experience for me. It might be different for somebody else, but it's really exciting. But that's going to be, I think Saudi Arabia is actually going to be the sports capital of the world, the new one. So it looks like that's what they're trying to do. And it's just brilliant to be a part of it at the inception. So yeah, I'm excited. Just to go from Chelmsley Wood, so I keep telling you.
But you've got some talented, lads on your roster as well that you're looking after, because you've got the McKenna brothers.
Yeah.
Again, just off the back of a win. But the question that I want to ask you, Rachel, is you've got all this talent around you. How do you keep them grounded? Because I can imagine you can't be around them 24/7, and they've probably got people in their ears talking about different things, offering them different things as well. Well, why do you want to stay with Rachel? And so how do you keep them grounded and look after them? Because that boxing world can be,
full of sharks.
Nasty world if you're not protected.
Yeah, it's grimy. It really is grimy, and that's the part that I don't like. But I've got a lot of kids that have close families, so they're pretty much the McKennas. They are gym, home, road work, gym, home, road work, eat, sleep. That's what they do. And it's very, very difficult to penetrate that team and be able to get in those boys' ears. Their father is not going to allow that to happen. So that's one thing. Then I've got a set of kids that are just absolute what, right? They're great kids, and I love them dearly. But I was having this conversation this morning. I'm like, I talk about these kids, I've got this big smile on my face, and I'm like, oh, and Ronnie Hines is a big heavyweight. It's like 6'8", massive kid. I freaking love him to bits. Sometimes can be a pickle, I'm like, Ronnie, like, knock it up. And I'm talking so proud, and I'm thinking, what don't I know that they're doing when I'm not around? There's a camp house less than a mile from my house, so I check in on the boys every day. I talk to them every day, making sure that they're good. I have a really good connection with my lads, and I think everyone knows that. I definitely I'm very close. You can't stop people from getting into these guys' ears. You can't stop it.
Yeah.
You can't stop them some of them from getting into trouble, or whatever it's going to be. You just can't stop it. You just have to try to be a strong presence in their life, and let them live their life. Try not. I definitely have like the helicopter mom syndrome, right? but I don't want them to fail. I don't, because I know, you know, I tell them, I'm your future. I'm going to tell you exactly how this shit's going to work out for you. You know, because a lot of these kids, not all, but you know, a lot of them we're all kind of from the same kind of backgrounds, you know.
Yeah.
And so I sit and just try to talk to them and expose them to different things and try to keep them. If I see someone sniffing around the gym that I don't like, then I will put myself in between that, you know, that person and my fighter. But you know, I've got to come home at some point during the day. They've got to go home, you know, and they are on their own. And you only can just hope that they will make the right decision, or if they're about to make a decision, will they consult you first? And if they don't, then they don't, and the consequences will be theirs to deal with. That's the way I look at it now, because I used to get so twisted up, and I'd be so pissed off, and I'd be like, you know, stop it, you know. Now it's like, you know what, it's your life, you've got to lead it. I'm gonna give you the tools as best I can to do it, to get through this life. But if you choose not to use them, then that's what you're going to do. You're not going to use them.
Yeah. And
you can't stop it.
How much are you around them in terms of, are you involved in the training as well? Like, how much involvement are you in their kind of like career and journey?
I go to the gym every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. I mean, the gym's literally right down the street. The gym that they used to be in. Now I'm going down to Freddie Roach's because I've just picked up a new kid down at Wildcard. But I was at the gym every single day. I'd go watch them spar, I'd watch them train. I just want to make sure that they're having a good day. You know, I mean, and you know, look, boxing is such a dangerous sport, right? And I say it often. We're asking somebody to go into a ring and punch somebody in the head and get punched in the head for a living. And we do not know if these kids are going to come out in one piece. We've seen some terrible tragedies going on, you know, after a fight in the, you know, all of these things, all these bad decisions that these fighters make. They'll listen to a friend, leave this promoter, go to that promoter, go to this manager, and then they fall flat on their face. They've got nothing, right? So my thing is, if I'm asking you to go do something that I don't want to do, I don't want to get punched in the head for a living. I'm asking you to do that. So my responsibility to you is to give you the best of me and to let you know that I'm there no matter what. I'm there when, you know, you don't feel good. I'm there to go take you to get something to eat. I'm there to take you grocery shopping if you need to. I do everything with these kids. I really do. Like, I don't have to. Like, I don't, like, on paper, I don't have to, right? I'm not obligated. I just feel like it's a human obligation, really. I feel like I should be doing this for them. I feel like it's my calling to do this. And these kids are coming, some of them from circumstances such as my own, where they've often felt alone, rejected, abandoned. It goes back to how, you know, we kicked off the conversation. So it's like, well, I don't ever want to have any of these kids be like, oh, Rachel just comes when it's fight time. I'm wiping you down. You know, I'm the one with the towel in the gym, you know, or running and getting you a bottle of water if I see your water's low or whatever. So I'm doing all of those things that people don't get to see every day. Yeah. But those boys are going to remember me, you know, for that. My lads will tell you, like, Rachel does a bed check every night. And I do. But we go hiking, or we'll go, you know, like I do activities with them. And, you know, I'm sounding like I'm a super Girl Scout team leader right now, right? But I mean, I just feel like it's important, because then the more I get to know these lads, the better job I can do for them. Yeah. If I'm talking to you about Ronnie Hines or Ronald Ellis or, you know, Adam Lopez or any of these guys that I've ever worked with, or Buddy McGirt, you know, all of that, I can speak to you and tell you everything that I know about them and what makes them tick. And they're fantastic kids, and we just have a really good time. But I think that I've watched too many guys fall flat on their face. And I had a boxer, I won't say who it was, and I won't say the person that said it, but I had a fighter who was right at the top, messed up, and their promoter was like, I hope they know how to flip burgers. And it's like, last week you were going to buy him a Rolls Royce. This week you want to go get, you know, an employment, formed from McDonald's. Like, what the hell? So you see how the business goes up and down very, very quickly. And I don't want my lads to suffer. I don't want them to. They're going to make bad choices. I know this. Am I going to be there to pick them up? I'm going to try my best.
In terms of the boxers, they're in the ring, right? And they're really pounding each other, head blows, body blows. What kind of aftercare do these boxers have, and how much do you ensure that they're kind of like protected? Because as you've mentioned, you know, not mentioning any names, but, you know, previous managers or promoters, you know, they're not really interested in their aftercare.
Yeah.
But what does it look like? What do these boxers have, and what do you ensure that they have in place?
You know, I think that is actually probably one of the most difficult aspects of this industry, because, you know, there's any aftercare, of course, has to come from the fight. It's his responsibility financially and everything, right? Whereas in basketball, football, baseball, you know, whatever, any other sport, there's a league that takes care of you afterwards, and you get all these benefits. And boxing, of course, does not offer that. I know that the WBC have a program that they will help, you know, former fighters when they fall on hard times, or if they fall on hard times. But other than that, you just have to, you know, make sure that these kids hopefully have stashed enough money away that they can go get health insurance, things like that, because they just don't have any. And it also goes back to, you know, people in their ears, or them getting a lot of money. These kids get a lot of money and they spend it, they don't invest it and all that. So there's a large amount of fighters out there that don't get any aftercare. I mean, my lads, you know, they're taken care of right now because they're with the former management team that I was with. So they look after them, you know, if they need to go to the doctor and things like that. But, you know, I mean, if you get injured in a fight, then you're insured, but just for that fight, just for that injury.
Just for that injury? Okay.
Yeah, but and just to a certain amount, and then everything's on you. So we do see a lot of these kids, you know, ending up, you know, in really bad situations. So you just, you know, I think that there should be some kind of a body in boxing that, you know, that they can go to get aftercare, you know, proper medical care, financial care, you know, how to take care of their money, things like that. But during their career, there isn't any, you know, and again, that's why I tried to, you know, the management team that I used to be with, and not all management teams do this, but we had like a pool of doctors in Beverly Hills, specialists. If they needed surgery, we'd take them to a specialist, pay for their surgery. These kids can't pay for a hand injury, or, you know, elbow, shoulders, you know, whatever. I had a kid from Brazil, Everton Santos Lopez, I think it was. But he had a shoulder injury, and that was a career-ending injury. Luckily, he went on to be a trainer. He's doing MMA and all kinds of great things now. He's doing really well for himself. But not everybody has that. You know, like the people Paul Williams, for instance, he's a very good example of, you know, tragically, you know, he has this accident. His career, of course, is over, but that's like an afterthought. It's his life now is like, you know, thank God he's alive, but he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. But, you know, he took measures, and he had the right people around him to put money aside for a rainy day, things like that. And not everyone sees that they're going to have a rainy day, because they're like, well, I just had my rainy days. I'm making money. I'm feeling good. Like, what do you want about a rainy day? This can't, nothing, what's going to go wrong, you know? So people don't save, you know. Paul did. And, you know, I'm glad, because he has the best quality of life that you can have while you're in a wheelchair. The kid's still alive. Thank God. He's a fantastic kid. One of my best kids. But he gets the best medical care. He's doing okay, you know. So that's a good story. But that's, you'll only probably find, you know, a handful of those.
Yeah.
And then you've got a boatload of tragic ones, you know, they can't get the care that they need. And, you know, it's very, very sad to see it. It's really sad.
Yeah.
So I just, again, look, if I won the Powerball tomorrow, I'd go around and take care of all of my lads, you know, but I'm not going to win it, you know. So you just have to try to do the best you can and try to, it's again, it's that repetitive, you know, over and over and over, the ups and downs, the dangers of the sport, life, this and that, and where you're going, where do you see yourself after life. You just got to keep going and hammering it into these lads, and hopefully it'll click, and hopefully they'll say, okay, she's onto something, and maybe, you know, like, I don't know what's around the corner for me myself, so let me prepare, you know. But for the most part, they don't. They want to go to the mall. They want, you see him in a, like, you'll see a kid in a pair of crappy shorts, you know, at one fight, and some old boots or whatever. Next time he's won a few thousand, you see him glittered up and all that. I'm like, oh God, I just don't, what the, and then they've got the Gucci belt, and I'm like, that's not going to pay your rent. I mean, it's lovely to have nice things, but that's not, you know, it's not. They have to start looking at some of these kids, like Andre Ward. He was another one of my guys who's doing very well. Some of these lads can actually go on and have these great careers after boxing.
Yeah.
But if you're not told that, if somebody doesn't say to you, like, you know, you've got a great personality, you've got a great smile, you've got this, you've got that going for you, let's while you're boxing, let's also explore all of these other options, which is what I do. You know, okay. I will call Sky Sports, and I'm like, I got this kid. Oh my God, you should let him call a fight one day. Maybe he can call like one of the prelim off TV fights or something. Just let him get his feet wet. And that's what I do, you know, and try to help. If someone's got that sparkle, Zizzo's got that sparkle, you know. There's a couple of guys that are like that. My kid, Ronald Ellis, he's got I'm desperate to get him a toothpaste commercial because his smile is just ridiculous. It's, oh my God, megawatt smile, you know. So there are kids that stand out that can actually go on and have a career after boxing and get, you know, get into a financial position where they're going to be all right for the, you know, the remainder of what's to be. So
and throughout this whole conversation, it just shows me now how involved you are in, you know, the fighters, in their life, in their career. But while I've been listening to you, how do you balance that with your like personal life, like that work-life balance? Because I can imagine it just sounds like it's just all go, go, go in terms of like in the boxing field. But do you ever have any downtime, or can you balance it?
I don't really have any downtime. I actually don't. It's interesting. When I first started at Goossen, he said, Rachel, you know, I need you to go to New York. And I think this was like a Thursday or something. And I said, like, in jest, like, oh, it's a good job I didn't have a date on Friday night. And he said, you know, he goes, if you want to be successful, you've got to marry this. You've got to be on the clock 24/7, you know. And I really, that was it. That's all I had to hear. And I've really dedicated the last, you know, 20 years of being in this industry, at the very top, at the very bottom, and everything in between. I've done it all, you know. And I don't have a personal life. Idris Elba, if you want. I don't, you know, I don't have, I mean, everything just kind of revolves around the lads. And I actually, you know, and I think as well, because I wasn't the best, I was a good mom, right? And, but I wasn't the best mom. But I feel it's weird because I feel like I get to kind of right some wrongs that I should have been doing back then. I mean, my daughter's very successful. She graduated from USC. She's got a master's. She lives in Hawaii. She's doing fantastic.
That's good.
Yeah. And I was, you know, but I was a single working mom, right? So I had to go to work. If she was sick, I had to leave her at home. I had to go to work. So I think that with this lot, all these lads that I've got now, and they're such a joy to be around, even when they're getting on my nerves.
Yes.
You know, like we'll go to the grocery store and people in the store are like, oh, here comes Rachel and Ronnie. Like, and
Yeah.
Ronnie is, I kid you not, he's like 6'8", right? I kid you not. And I'll take the cart, you know, like the trolley. I'm like, hold on to the side of the trolley. I don't want to lose you in the grocery store. And people start laughing because it's like this big freaking burly brother, you know, and I'm like I'm his mom, like, hold my hand, you know, stranger danger. So we have a really good laugh and I just feel super close and I really love these kids. I really do. And
Yes.
they're all very special. They don't have to be around me. They don't have to work with me. I'm always going to look out for these lads, you know, because I want to, not because I have to. Like it's a human want, a love want, right? But as far as a personal life, I don't have any. If I'm going I love to go hiking, but I've probably got Ronnie with me. This morning I went and did my road work with Ronald Ellis, his wife, and so I'm always with somebody that's connected to boxing. I don't really have anyone that's outside of boxing.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even have a boyfriend. Like,
What?
I know all of this. I know. Listen, man, I make a great chicken pie as well. But hey, if Idris Elba doesn't want it, then he doesn't want it. It's not my fault. I don't know what to tell him. But yeah, you know, I feel like you just kind of you get sucked in. You know, you get sucked into boxing, and I feel like if you're on a really good roll, you know, it just keeps you going. And before you know it, you know, it's like no one wants to go to work on a Monday morning. It's like, oh shit, I gotta go to work. The weekend's over already. You got to work on Monday, but then all of a sudden it's Friday. So it goes by so quick. And it's only last year, I think I was like, wow, I've given 20 years to this.
Yes.
What am I going to do now? I'm about to be 55 in next month. I'm going to be 55. So it's like, oh, like what to do now, you know? And boxing's kind of slowing down because I feel like I don't know what I want to do anymore in boxing. Like, what else do you do if you just made history in Saudi Arabia? Like, what's to do, you know? So, boxing's not a challenge anymore for me. It's quite, you know, the original job that being a publicist is very easy for me now. Being a manager is pretty cool, but you know, I think I'm starting to wanting to wind down and go do other things. So we'll have to see what happens.
I mean, 20 years, right, being on such a journey, which would have been exciting at times, emotional at times, but fast paced all of the time. Now you're saying that you're coming towards the end of it and thinking about other things. Do you really feel ready for coming towards the end of it? Because once you get off that train, life might be different. Are you? Is it something that you're looking forward to, or something that is?
You know, it's really weird because I've been feeling it for a while. You know, when you just start to kind of my daughter had a baby, and I was like, oh, you know, I want to go see the baby and try to just kind of fix things. Like my daughter's going to be 38 this year, so I just want to try to. Or I wanted to try to be, you know, like be there for her and the kid and, you know, her husband and try to help out and do things for them, you know, because I've given so much to others. But, you know, I've been feeling it for a couple of years, like, okay, I'm going to, boxing has changed so much. And I was saying to somebody, you know, you'd run over your granny with a freight train to get to a HBO fight in Vegas, right? Now it's like, it's not fun anymore. It's not like it used to be, right? And you know, you've got to move with the times, and I understand that, but I feel like everything that I've done, there's no, like, the future of boxing, I don't really feel includes me. I feel like I've done what I've needed to do and set people up to where they've needed to be. I mean, I was just at Wild Card, and this gorgeous little kid, Lorenzo Powell. Oh my God, the kid's gorgeous. You could just lose yourself in his dimples, and he's just lovely, and he's a great athlete. And I'm watching him in the ring, and I'm like, don't look at him, don't make eye contact. You're going to fall in love with another one, and you're going to be pulled right back in. You're trying to leave, don't do it, you know. But then you do, you know, like, I feel like every time I'm on my way out the door, I get stopped with somebody that I'm like, okay, this kid's going to get taken for a ride. let me try to help. But, you know, at some point you've got to come to a hard stop, you know, and you go through this mourning period, you know, because I've literally lived, you know, boxing. And I think you definitely go through a mourning period of like knowing that it's going to come to an end. And, you know, what does life look like? What will I do? And where will I go? And all of that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I'm just going to fall back on my personality and go
see.
out there and see if people want to hear my story, and if they want to hear it and I get paid to do it, and I'll go out and motivate and all of that. And that would be fabulous. That's really what I would love to do. I'd like to come, you know, back home, and which is why I'm so thrilled to, you know, be talking to you guys, because you know, you're in my hometown, and everyone's going to watch it, and they're all going to see it and things like that. And you know, I'd like to come back and tell people what we were saying. You can get out and go do other things in the world. It's a big world. It's even bigger now. And, you know, so that would probably be the next natural step for me. So I don't think I'll get married. I don't think any of that, you know, that's not going to happen, you know, and I'm okay with that. I'm all right being on my own, you know. I'm not going to buy a cat. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to buy a goldfish. But it's okay if I'm on my own. I'm on my own. You know, it's perfectly fine for me. I'm you know, very comfortable with that. But I just if I can just go out and encourage others and tell other people how, you know, like, just tell them that there's hope, I guess, you know, not to sound too cliche and cheesy, but there is. It's there. I'm living proof of it, you know. And I think before I would be like, oh, I can't, I'm name dropping, I'm flexing, I'm this. That's like, well, sod it, I'm going to be cocky, because I really did do all of that, you know. So it's time to be cocky. Fuck it. I'm going to go out and tell them, you know.
Well, don't rule out the marriage just yet, because you
Well,
never know.
you never know. Listen, put my number. No. Nah, it'd be all right. And if it doesn't happen, then but the boys will go, Rachel, you've got too many rules. That's why you don't have a boyfriend. Shoes off at the door. You can't eat on the couch. You can't walk around eating food. I had Ronnie over for dinner, and him and one of our coaches, and they were sitting here, and they just didn't know how to act right. I'm like, okay, you don't know what it's like to be civilized, so give me a plate. I kicked him out of my house. I put the food in plastic thing, and I kicked him out of my house. And he was like, oh, you can't go to eat at Rachel's, man. She'll be kicking you out of the house. I'm like, you don't know how to act. And they say, that's because you got too many rules. That's why you don't have a boyfriend. But that's okay. You know, rules are rules. So we'll see. It'll be all right.
Before we go to the end of this discussion, there's a few things that, you know, I wanted to pick up on. One, I definitely see you doing some form of motivational speaking and sharing your story, because, as I said, this is why we were gravitated to you, because the story is inspiring, and a lot of people that will listen to this pod and people that will follow you probably off the back of this, or people's lives that you touch, you will have a significant change in their direction, because you've lived it, you've walked the journey. But over the 20 years that you've been in the boxing, do you have any regrets? Is there anything that you regret?
I think in boxing, probably not slapping as many people as I would. Definitely that. But regrets, nah, I think I'm all right. I think that I worked with the people that I worked with, and I didn't for a reason, and I didn't work with the people that I didn't work with for a reason. So I think I'm all right. I don't really have any regrets in boxing. I think I'm okay. Yeah, I'm all
Yeah,
right. You know,
yeah,
yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I think I'm good. It's been okay. You know, I don't think I would change. I don't think I would change anything. You know,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think so. Yeah, yeah.
Your journey's
Mhm.
been amazing, Rachel. And we've talked about strength, we've talked about upset, disappointment, abandonment. We've talked about how you've been resilient through different time periods, and you've definitely drawn on all of those qualities to even navigate in America. And these are things, Rachel, that you've had to learn. on your own, right? You mentioned earlier on, there's no manual to protecting yourself. You had to learn that yourself. But this is a question that I ask a lot of people when, especially only the ones that I have deep conversations with. If you could go back to a younger Rachel, you've lived this life, you've jumped on a plane and you've gone back to the UK, what would you say to that younger self if you could speak to that younger Rachel? And I said you've got half an hour to just quickly summarize and speak to that younger Rachel. What would you say to her?
God, that's a good one. You stumped me. I would probably say, like, it's going to be all right, obviously, right? It's, and I think, and I have thought about this over the years, like the time that I was molested, right? And I'm sitting in I went and told my mom, and then I'm sitting in the bathroom, the upstairs bathroom, and there's just pure pandemonium going on downstairs. The cops are in the house, the whole bit, and I'm just sitting there. But I think, and then from there, life was just like one big roller coaster, right? So I think if I had to go back, I'd go back to that moment when shit was just belly up and I'm 10. And I would probably say, like, look, shit's gonna get, I'm back, back to the future type of thing. Like, shit's gonna get really rough, but you're gonna make it, you're gonna be alive. I didn't even think I'd reach the age of 30. I really didn't. And I'm about to be 55. So I'm way past my, shelf life in my own mind, right? But I think I would just say, like, it's going to be really, really rough, but you are going to, the universe is going to give you a shield, and you're going to be, I'm trying not to sound cheesy, but it's like, you're going to have all these tools, and you're going to be okay, but it will be rough. It's absolutely not going to be easy, but the reward is going to be unbelievable. I think that's what I would tell myself. And I think that I would have probably just said, like, fuck it, then let's go do it.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would have told myself,
Rachel.
I've always been a fuck it, let's go do it kind of girl anyway, right? So, and I hate to use profanities, but really, like, should be scrawled on a wall, right? F it, let's go do it. But I think that's what I would have told myself.
Rachel,
let's go.
You are an amazing person. We've been looking forward to having this conversation for a while. And we were really, really honored when you reached back and says that you would do it. We still didn't think you would. But really? when it happened, we had the pre-meetings, right? So we do really, really appreciate it. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that will listen to this episode. And it's, while it says on the tin, it's upfront, it's raw, it's candid. Thank you for being so open.
You are welcome. You are more than welcome.
Rachel,
you are so welcome.
We wish you all the best. We do wish you all the best. And we know that you had, while you was writing, there should be a book in the pipeline.
I wrote one. It's sitting right in the cupboard.
There, well, we need to have that book.
Yeah.
Have that book, because I honestly, I think this story is definitely a story of strength, character, and it just definitely demonstrates that you can be whatever you can be, despite what the starting was.
Yeah.
You can be whatever you can be.
That's absolutely it. Just don't, you just got to be a bull in a china shop. You literally have to just don't listen to the voices. Just go and do what you feel, in your gut, and what you're destined to be. When I used to be singing in the living room upstairs and using the sideboard as a piano, and I'd be singing, I'm a star in New York, I'm a star in LA. And literally, I learned all the words for Edith Piaf's French album, so pretending I could speak French. I was like, I'm destined to be in Hollywood. What the hell? And here I am. So
yeah.
We'll see what happens, but it's been a good journey. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm just thrilled to bits. I can't wait to come and meet you and in person, and we'll go down to the Chippy and sit on the back of the bus and have a laugh. old school. These
Well,
kids don't know.
they don't listen. If you come to the UK before we get out there, we're going to do the episode in person and let
Oh,
people
yeah.
know this is part 2. This is the journey.
100%. Absolutely. If you ever need anything, just let me know. I'm always about. But thank you very much.
And likewise, Rachel, thanks for today. And
you are welcome.
for the rest of your day. Thank you.
You got it. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Birmingham.